Hello everyone, welcome to 2.3 Making Operations Decisions. So this is the third video in the Theme 2 series of recaps. This one's all about the operations department. So after the first one, which was about growth, the next four are about the main four departments within an organization. So 2.2 is marketing, 2.3 is operations, 2.4 is finance, and 2.5 is human resources. So in this one, we're looking at operations, we're looking at production, we're looking at suppliers, we're looking at that whole process. So my advice would be get a piece of paper, as I've said with the other videos, get a piece of paper and make some notes as we go. Use this as sort of some of your revision. I'm going to put some basic notes on the screen, but I'm going to talk in a bit more detail. And so rather than overwhelm the screen, I'm going to do a lot of the talking in a little bit more detail. But hopefully through this, you'll get a bit of an idea and like the main key piece of information that you need to know from 2.3. So let's start with 2.3.1 operations. We're going to start with our production processes and then we'll talk about the whole purpose of operations. When it comes to production, we have three main ways in which we can produce our products. There are more than this, but these are the three that I've covered at the GCSE. So we've got job production, which is one-off production of a single unique item. So a good example of this would be, for example, a tailored suit or a custom wedding dress or a birthday cake that's specially made for one individual person. Now the idea here is it's one-off, and so you might pay a little bit of a price premium here because of it being one-off production, and also potentially requires a level of skilled labor in order to do this, and quite often is involving a little bit of a personal touch rather than being totally made by a machine. So job production is the first. The second is batch production, and this is where we make a limited quantity of identical products. So for example, if you go to a bakery, if you go to Greg's, and you'll notice they don't make each sausage roll to order, that would be a huge waste of time and really inefficient. And so what they do is they'll make them in a batch, and maybe they'll be able to fit 15 or 20 on one of their kind of trays. They'll make them in batches of 15 or 20, and then when they recognize that they're getting low on the ones that are left, or they're getting cold or something like that, they might put another batch in. So the idea is, by making them in a batch, first of all, it's a little bit quicker, a little bit cheaper, because you're making them in a bit of bulk. But also, if you make them in the right quantity batch, you hopefully reduce any potential risk of waste. You hopefully don't run out, because you can make the next batch ready for the previous batch. So that's batch. There's plenty of other examples, but bakeries is probably the best one to stick with. It gives a really kind of clear, batch of pastries or something like that is quite a commonly used example for that. The third is a flow production. And so this is where production is continuous. You would use this if, for example, you felt like you were going to have a really high level of demand and so you needed to consistently produce these products. So if you think about, for example, Heinz baked beans or tomato ketchup, a few of their products actually, they might make this on a flow because they know that they're going to have demand, and so they know they need to produce a certain amount per day. But also, the product itself doesn't actually change, and so you can just make it, and you know that it's going to be available to be sold for a period of time until it goes off or it's perishable. So flow production is where it's continuous production. We usually use this when we've got high levels of demand. Naturally, with job, we mentioned, there's a lot of human in that. There's a lot of person doing the work. In batch, you might have quite a bit of person making them in the first place, but then you might use machinery or equipment to make the batches. Flow is more likely going to be very heavily machine-based. We're going to come back to that when we look at technology and production. What is the purpose of operations? Well, the purpose is to create or provide goods and services. And I think that's one thing that's worth bearing in mind. When we think about operations, it's really easy to think about production and think that operations is just making things. But actually, operations is a bit more than that. For a service business, for example, the operations isn't making anything. The operations is the providing of the service. You could argue that actually, as a teacher, the operations in terms of a school is the actual teaching. Like, it's providing the service of teaching you guys about GCSE business or maths or history or any other subject. And so the purpose of operations is to do this and to do it in the most effective way. So how do we measure how effective production is? Well, we've got two terms we're going to introduce. We've got productivity and efficiency, and we're going to look at what those two mean. So productivity is how much is produced, and this is in terms of quantity over a period of time. And efficiency is making the most out of the resources. Now, for the example for this, I always go with a basketball example. I'm a basketball coach, and so naturally this one kind of works well in my head. But I think actually in terms of productivity and efficiency, it's actually easier to look at a non-business example. So if we take two basketball shooters and we say that, for example, shooter A takes 10 shots and makes 7, and shooter B takes 7 shots and makes 5, the question here is who is the more productive and who is the more efficient? Well, the one who's the more productive is the one who's made the most shots. And so naturally, in this situation, that would be the shooter who's shot 7 out of 10. They've made 70% of their shots. They've made 7. Yes, they've taken more, but when we're looking at productivity, we're looking at how much they've made, not how much they've used. Now, the second shooter has only taken 7 shots, but has made 5 of them. Now, there's only a marginal difference. They've made about 71.5% of their shots. So they've actually been more efficient because they've got the most out of their resources. Yes, they took less shots. Yes, they made less shots, but they made a higher percentage of them. So they actually, of the shots they took, made a higher amount. So they were more efficient with their shooting. Now, as a basketball coach, actually in basketball, I'd want both. I'd want some people to be productive. You know, I want to know that my kind of main scoring threat, I need the other team to know that that guy can get 20 points in a game. So I don't necessarily mind if it takes them a few more shots to get those 20 points. I need them to be the big threat. Someone who's maybe coming off the bench and only playing 5-10 minutes, I need them to be really efficient with their time. So I need them to come onto the court off the bench and maybe make 2 of their 3 shots, or maybe grab 3 rebounds in 2 minutes or something like that. I want them to be really efficient with their making the most out of their minutes on the court. Whereas in others, you just want levels of productivity. So that's kind of the difference between productivity and efficiency. Businesses want both. Naturally, you'd like to be really, really productive and really efficient. Depending on the business, they might want different things. So if you're a business that's really trying to kind of ensure that you are the most effective with your costs, efficiency might be the most important. But if you've got a big order and you've got a short time frame to turn that order around, actually in that situation, productivity is probably going to be the most important of the two. Now, throughout all of this, we've hinted at the use of technology and the use of humans. Well, there are terms for that. So when we talk about technology and production, we're talking about the difference between labor-intensive and capital-intensive. So labor-intensive is more human-based, capital-intensive is more machine-based. And there's benefits and drawbacks to each of these. Obviously, with machines, you don't have to pay them wages. However, they're probably going to be a lot more expensive to buy upfront, and we're going to have to pay maintenance costs, and also there's the risk that they might break down. Whereas with human resources, like labor-intensive, we are probably not going to spend as much upfront, but we are going to have to pay for them every single month. And while I guess they can kind of break down, they can get sick. The big difference between a machine and a human is obviously humans need sleep and food. And so they need to take breaks, legally have to take breaks. Whereas a machine doesn't necessarily have to do that. And so there are benefits to both. You know, if you are producing we talked about flow, if you're producing continuous production, machine makes a lot more sense. It's more likely to be consistent. It's more likely to give you the same result every single time. But if it's job production, then you're probably going to need that human touch, that level of kind of creativity, that level of individualism. A lot of products will have both. So like we talked, for example, about job production, didn't we? And we said that one of the examples could be a suit manufacturer and like a custom suit for a wedding. I'm going to a wedding in a couple of weeks. I'm wearing a custom fitted suit. I'm the best man. And the wedding suit itself was probably batch made. They probably made a series of them in a certain size. However, it was then tailored to fit me. I'm very tall, very slim, and so naturally I have to have my suits tailored a little bit. So there's probably an element of capital intensive in terms of making the suit in the first place. It was probably done by a machine. And then there's also the labor intensive in terms of the tailoring was done by a person. So that's 2.3.1. So 2.3.2, working with suppliers. The main big theory here, the main big thing you need to be aware of is the Bargate stock graph. And the key thing here is you need to understand what all of the different lines on it mean. You need to understand how to read it, because in an exam, you might be expected to interpret data from this. Now, if you understand it, they're really, really easy marks. So I'm going to try and draw it on here and go through it step by step and talk through the different lines and talk through what this graph shows. So this Bargate stock graph shows a business's level of stock over a period of time. So on the y-axis, you've got the stock level. We're going to go up to 90 in this situation, starting obviously at 0. And then time, if we assume that we're starting at 0, so starting at today and maybe moving up to 12 weeks in the future. There's a few elements to this graph that you need to be aware of. The first is this top line, which is our maximum stock level. So this is the maximum that the business can hold at any one time. Now, there's a bunch of reasons why this might be the case. So, for example, it might be the max that we want to hold because we've got other products that we need to store. It might be based around the amount of storage space that we've got. It might be based around a whole range of things, how big the product is and how many of them we can actually physically fit into our storeroom. But the point here is this is our maximum stock level, and we don't want to go higher than this because, of course, in order to store this stuff, we've got to pay for it. We've got to pay for bigger warehouses, or we've got to sacrifice selling space to fit in more storage space. So that's our maximum stock level. We also have a minimum stock level, or what we call a buffer stock level. And the point of this is the level that we don't want to go below. The reason we don't want to go below this is because if we go below this, then we're running the risk of running out. And if we run out, we potentially disappoint customers. So if we can say, right, we want to make sure we've got at least 20, then in theory, if we can stick to that, we should never run out. And even if there is an increase in demand for whatever reason, we should still have enough stock to be able to make that work until we can wait for more stock to come in. So we've got our max stock level and our buffer stock level, and we need to understand the concept of a buffer stock. Now, this green line is our stock over time. So what you can see here is that we are selling stock over a period of 3 weeks. We are going from 80 to 20. So we're clearly selling 20 a week, 80 down to 60, 60 down to 40, 40 down to 20. And then obviously what's going to happen is we are going to, at some point, because we've reached our buffer stock, receive a new order which takes us back up to 80. And this is going to continue. I'm going to continue this along a few times. Let's assume that our sales are pretty steady. Naturally, it's never actually probably going to be like this, but this is what it would look like. And so over that period of 12 weeks, we sell our stock on 4 different occasions and we get new stock in. So hopefully that bit makes sense. The bit where it gets a little bit complicated and the bit where there's a few specific key terms is this bit here. Now, clearly, we need to order new stock before it arrives. We can't do this we can't wait until, for example, 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 9 weeks to do this because chances are there's going to be a bit of a delay. We're going to have to process the order. We're going to have to wait for it to be delivered. So what we'd actually do is we have what we call a reorder level. And this reorder level is when we get to this point, this is when we make a new order. So this is when we'd order new stock. And we have to anticipate, we're going to have to do this early because it's going to take a bit of time to arrive to us. So if we look at week 8 and we look at that little red circle there, that reorder point, that's the point at which it triggers that we need to make a new order. And clearly, between week 8 and week 9, we receive that. So that gap there, the difference between when we place the order for our reorder and when we actually receive it, that's called our lead time. Now, what determines your lead time? Well, there's a whole range of things that determine your lead time. How far away you are from the suppliers. Certainly, if your supplier is maybe abroad, you're going to have to probably plan a bit further ahead. If it's in the neighboring village, your lead time could probably be like a day or two, depending on the relationship you've got with your suppliers. But this is why this is important. When we're managing our stock, we've got to think about the relationship we have with our suppliers, with the people who provide us with these goods. Now, there is a theory to this called just-in-time, which is, I'm not going to draw it out on the diagram, but because that would involve doing a whole of the diagram, and clearly on this I've got a lot to cover. I don't have a huge amount of space. But just-in-time is where we, instead of ordering every 3 weeks, we order less stock but more often. And the reason we do this is for 2 factors. We can, if we order it more often, so for example, if we're selling 20 a week, maybe if we order 20 in a week, every week, then we might, for example, receive orders every single week, but it means that our maximum stock level could drop massively. So that might save us some money. We could spend that money on something else. But also potentially, if we're getting orders more frequently, we might not need quite as much of a buffer stock, so we can reduce our buffer stock. And then obviously, you've probably guessed, the reason this is called just in time is because the deliveries arrive just in time, as in just before we run out. So that concept of just in time is really important. It's about reducing storage costs. It's about reducing buffer stocks and maximum stock levels. And it's just about making sure that we have good relationships with our suppliers so that we can actually do this. This topic is full of really specific key terms. Procurement is another one that students find it really difficult to remember because it's a really specific term and it's not one that you'll have heard of before. Procurement, it means effectively these things. It means finding the right suppliers. So in a business, a big business, there might be someone whose job it is to find the right suppliers, order the right quantities, make sure they're getting the right amount, make sure they've calculated to make sure they know how much they need. Make sure it's arriving at the right time, so with the right lead time, for example, and make sure that the suppliers they've got are of the right quality so that we get products to the right standard. So procurement is about finding the right suppliers, and obviously that's really important that we've got a good relationship with our suppliers so that we can meet those 4 criteria. Logistics is a little bit different. So logistics is all about delivery, and that does not just necessarily mean just to the customer, although that's really important. Like logistically, we've got to get the products to the customer at the right time, but it means throughout the supply chain. So it means our suppliers have to deliver on time to us. It means their suppliers have to deliver to them. So it's really important. The whole concept of logistics is all about making sure stock is delivered and available on time and delivered to potentially customers. So procurement and logistics, 2 key terms that are well worth paying attention to. 2.3.3 is all about managing quality, and we've got a few different ways we can assess quality and a few different ways we can try and keep quality at a high standard. But the first thing that's worth bearing in mind is, what does quality actually mean? Because quality is different in any different type of business. So I've put 3 examples on the screen there. Let's go through these. A restaurant, while quality in a restaurant is not just the quality of the food, although that is really, really important. It's also the quality of the experience, the quality of the service. It's the quality of the atmosphere. It's the quality of the seating and the view out the window and all of those different things. All of those things make quality important. For a beauty spa, the quality might be the temperature, it might be the treatments you get, it might be the range of options available, it might be the level of quality provided to you by the customer service representatives. For a hotel, quality is a whole range of different things. It could be the food at the restaurant in the hotel. It could be the quality of the bed. It could be the quality of the room, whether it meets your criteria. If you're traveling with young children, you're going to have a different measure of quality to if you're traveling by yourself. And so quality is different from business to business. And so it's just worth bearing in mind what quality actually means. When it comes to products, quality is quite often like the physical quality of the product. We talked about the design mix in 2.2.1, and so a lot of those parts, like the aesthetics and the function, are part of quality. How do we check that quality is any good? Well, we've got a few different things. We've got a few different options. There's 2 main ones, and then there's a third one that kind of overrides these. So the first is, when we're checking quality, we can use quality control, which is where we check at the end of the production process. So we might, for example, check every single product. We might check every 5th product, and if we see that there's a problem, we might go back and check them all. And it effectively means that at the end of the process, once the final product is ready, someone's checking it before it gets sold. Now, there are some good things to this and some bad things. The good thing is it doesn't take that long because you're only checking once, and you're checking at the end. But it also means you should hopefully be able to spot errors, and if there's bad batches, we can fix that. But the downside is, if, for example, the problem in the production or the fault was actually really early on in the production process, we might have wasted a lot of time and money by manufacturing the whole thing when we could have identified it earlier. And that's where quality assurance comes in. So quality assurance is where we check for quality throughout the process. This is better in one sense, in that you hopefully identify the faults a little bit earlier, but because everyone's going to have to do this, because it's going to be done at every step of the process, you are going to have staff who are trained and able to identify these weaknesses and test for quality. So there are positives and negatives to each of these. The main thing we're trying to aim for, and a lot of businesses try to aim for, is what we call a quality culture. And the culture of an organization is the way it behaves. And a quality culture is one that where every single person within the organization, doesn't matter how high or low they are in the organizational structure, every single one of them cares about the level of quality in the business. And so there's a few terms that you can talk about in this. One is a term called Kaizen. Kaizen means continuous improvement. It's a Japanese concept, and it's all about how we should be as a business, and to be honest, as people as well, we should always be looking to make improvements. We should always be looking to get a little bit better. And so this culture of Kaizen means you're always looking for little ways you can increase the quality, even if it's just by 1 or 2%. And then the idea is that these little changes that we make to our culture overall have a really, really positive impact. Now, in terms of quality, why is it important? Well, it can give us our competitive advantage, and there's a few ways this can happen. The first is obviously in terms of our image and our reputation. If we have really high quality and we've got a really quality system in place for delivering customer service and providing consumers a good experience. That could be something that really impacts on our brand image. That could be something that really impacts on our reputation. It could be something that leads to loyalty from our customers. But there's also the costs perspective as well, because quality doesn't necessarily just mean that it's really expensive. Quality just means that it's potentially really good value for money. And so it could be that quality and doing things a little bit better allows us to avoid waste. It allows us to identify faults early and mean that we don't waste money. So this can be really, really impactful when we're trying to control our costs. So overall, the key thing with quality is understanding those little key terms: quality control, quality assurance, the potential for a quality culture, and understanding the importance of quality to a business, but also how this is different for every single business. The last step in 2.3 is the sales process. This is one that a lot of students struggle with. Knowing the stages of the sales process, knowing what's involved in the stage process. It's not a natural process, really. It's not like step 1, step 2, step 3, but these are really important parts of selling a product that you need to be aware of. And so it's really important that you remember what these are, because you could get like a 1 marker that asks you to talk about a part of the sales process. So really important that you know these. So we've got these 5 kind of stages of the sales process. We've got product knowledge. Naturally, it goes without saying that if we want to make a sale effectively, it's really important to know what the product does, know the features, know how it compares to other products. If you're going to buy a TV and you go to Hughes or somewhere like that, or Curry's, you're expecting them to know about the product, know which TVs are better, know which resolutions are better, know different sound bars and things like that, all the different kind of features and what's built into the products, in order for you to trust that you're making a good decision based around things that are well recommended. The speed and the efficiency of service is really important as well. That's not to say that you need everything to happen really, really quickly. If you're buying like a car or buying a house, you might want to take your time over that a little bit because you want to make sure you make the right decision. But you want to make sure that that kind of service happens at the appropriate speed and that it's efficient, that they're not wasting your time. You can kind of get in there and get the product that you want. There has to be a level of customer engagement. Customer engagement comes in a few different ways. And this is not just kind of straight away there and then, but it might be customer engagement that goes on throughout the process or after the process. So for example, I'm a Newcastle United season ticket holder. They communicate with me on a regular basis, and they will sort of send me newsletters. They'll send me information. They'll send me updates on different things. And that's their way of kind of keeping me engaged, because I live 300 miles away, so I only go to games every so often, but they keep me engaged in the process. They send me emails, they send me updates every time we win a game. I get, like, for example, a little offer off in the club shop. They'll provide like a discount code if we've won, that you can buy like 10% off a home shirt or an away shirt or something like that. It could be that if you've bought something, sometimes you buy something 6 years ago and they still send you newsletters. It's just their way of staying involved and hopefully getting you to buy from them again. That can be in person, that can be online, it can be through newsletters, it can be through letters, it can be through now text messages or phone calls if you sign up to those things when you buy a product or when you interact with a business. The next 2 are more focused on kind of the post-sales section. So the response to feedback is really important in terms of sales and making more sales, is making sure that if there is a problem with any of the ways you do your business, you're responding to feedback appropriately, politely, you're taking on feedback on board and potentially making changes to improve the business as you move forward. In terms of post-sales care, quite often when you buy a product, it's not over. You might, for example, have a warranty where you have protection for a period of time in case anything goes wrong. We bought a new sofa a couple of months ago, and one of the big things we were looking for in the new sofa was, what is the kind of post-sales care? What are the options for us if something was to happen to the sofa? Because, a little while ago we got a dog, and naturally the dog, being a puppy, especially being a Labrador, chewed our old sofa to bits. So one of the big things we wanted with this post-sales care was, we wanted the option of, if that happened again, thankfully it hasn't, we wanted to be able to know that we'd be able to get it repaired. And so we paid a little bit extra for some post-sales care, which means that I think we have up to 4 incidents where if the dog chews the sofa, we can get it repaired for free. After that, I think we have to pay. To be honest, after that, I'm just going to make the dog pay, because quite frankly, if it chews the sofa 4 times, we've got a problem with the dog. And we might have to sell the dog to buy a new sofa. So all of those different stages of the sales process are really, really important. So make sure you know what those stage processes are. Now, we've alluded to customer service quite a bit there. We need to understand kind of what customer service is. How do you provide good customer service? Well, the main thing is you need to know what the customer wants. You need to know all the things we've just talked about in the sales process, but you need to know what the customer is actually looking for. And you need to find that out by asking them questions and listening to what they say. So making sure you know what they're looking for, making sure whatever you can provide, you share with them and you communicate effectively. But you also have to be accessible. And that means that you have to be available if a customer wants to speak to you or send you an email or what have you, or at any time. And so quite often what we see now with customer service is we see quite a lot of customer services become automated. AI is able to be customer service, and then if AI can't help you, more often than not, it probably can't, then they can put you through to a human kind of customer service representative. Now, what are the benefits of customer service? What's the impact of good customer service? Well, it has a whole range of impacts. We've talked about the impact of quality on reputation. Well, it's going to have the same impact in terms of customer service. I remember buying a pizza oven and the one I received was broken. And so I sent them an email. I said, look, this one isn't working. What can I do? And do you know what? Actually, even though I'd had quite a bit of a poor experience because the product I'd received was broken, the quality of the customer service was so impactful and so helpful that actually I felt better about the business after that negative experience, technically, than I did beforehand, because I knew that they took care of me. And so I felt kind of that level of loyalty. Loyalty can lead to repeat sales. It also potentially allows us to add value. Adding value, allowing us to charge a higher price. If we've got really good levels of customer service, then that might make our products justifiably a little bit more expensive. It could even potentially be our unique selling point. So that covers 2.3.4. That covers all of 2.3. Hopefully that's been useful. If you've got any questions, then let me know in the comments and I'll answer as many as I can, no matter when you send them. Also, have a look at the other videos for Theme 1 and Theme 2 on the channel. I will see you next time.